All right. Well, just want to start today by thanking everybody for joining us for our open house. It's become a recurring event for us here. And yeah, just wanted to focus today on Sanity Capital. So just a couple housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded for anybody that wanted to take this with them or share it with a peer that maybe couldn't join us today. Also, right now would be a good time to grab your drink kits if you got those in the mail. We'll be making a cocktail today with our resident bartender, Kenny Lark. So get those ready right now. Go ahead and get those out, and we'll have a quick little cocktail hour here in about 15 minutes. So, but let's go ahead and kick things off. So for those of you that don't know Sanity Solutions, we are a data management solution provider headquartered here in Denver. And for the past 15 plus years, we've been working with our customers on designing and deploying intelligent data management solutions across all these core competencies. So we really kind of started in the data center, server storage, network, DR and backup, but we've grown into cloud and security, virtualization, wireless, and usually on these open houses, that's kind of what we focus on, is talking about a leading trend or topic or technology. But today, we want to kind of pivot and focus on a very critical part of a lot of these projects we're working on with our customers, but it has nothing to do with technology. So kind of just thought for today, the easiest way to kind of set the table and talk about this topic is with a real life customer scenario. So one of our customers right now that we're working with, we started talking to them a few months ago about refreshing their production storage. It comes up for refresh this year. It's end of life, so it's very critical that they get that replaced this year. So that was kind of the initial initiative that we talked to them about. But after diving a little further into some analytics and looking at the rest of their environment, we noticed that they had some aging compute that was hosting their VMware environment, and they had kind of under resources there, and they didn't have quite enough compute power as that VMware environment has grown over the last few years. So identified an issue there, and then while looking at all their physical infrastructure, we also identified that one of their UPSs is aging a little quicker than expected. They have some batteries that need replaced. So, originally started talking about something that was charted and budgeted for this year. But as we started to work with them on this initiative, identified a number of other things. Now, the problem is that the production storage was budgeted for this year. But the problem is that the VM host servers, they don't have budget till next year. And they expected this UPS to get them to 2023. So they're looking at 3 different years worth of budget here, but ultimately have to get everything done before the end of the year, unless they, want to run the risk of potentially looking at failures, maybe poor performance because they don't have enough compute, and not having the proper power and cooling can compromise everything, especially that new storage that they're about to put in. So the IT team was kind of tasked to say, they were just challenged by basically looking at 3 years worth of budget, all being forced into this current year, and, raised a lot of questions of how they were going to get this done. So enter Sanity Capital. The account team covering this customer said, hey, we've got some ways to basically bridge the gap of looking at your next 3 years budget, getting everything done this year, but then being able to split those payments out over the next 3 to 5 years as those assets depreciate, and not having to wait until those budget cycles are up in order to spend those funds. So by doing so, this customer was able to, realize new storage, new compute, to power all these business critical applications across their environment, boost performance, reduce latency, preserve uptime. Like I said, these are the applications that the customer makes money on, and get that all done in 2021, but be able to pay for them over the next 3 to 5 years as those budget cycles come up and as those funds are approved. So in doing so, like I said, kept the customer up and going, able to get everything done now and pay for it when they have the money, and kind of bridge the gap between those financial. With every project, we look at a financial, operational, and technical component, and make sure that our customers are successful across all 3. So it doesn't get talked about enough, but it's such a critical part of making sure that our customers get things done, whether it's a singular project that you need to split up budget across a few years, or if it's multiple projects like this that are going to require buckets of money that aren't available until the next 2 to 3 years. So again, this is just a quick scenario. With that, I'd like to hand it off to our president and CEO, Jason Shervany. He's going to dive deeper into the program that he developed with our financing partners, and give you much more detail. But thought I'd just start with that. And again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, great introduction. And yeah, let me go ahead. I'll bring up my my screen here, and we'll jump in today's presentation. Okay, I think everyone can see. Keith, give me a thumbs up. Great. All right, as Keith mentioned, my name is Jason Shervany, and I started the company 17 years ago. And at the time, we focused solely on really storage. So primary storage that our customers were asking for. And over time, over the past 17 years, we added additional technology solutions that our customers have been asking for. Well, along that time, more and more of our customers are asking for other solutions that technology definitely has something to do with, but there are other operational needs, hence Sanity Capital. So Sanity Capital really was customer directed. And when I say customer directed, Keith, you had a very good example there of, well, how do I do 3 years of projects in 1 year? And it's kind of the chicken or the egg. Do I buy A or do I buy B first? And the real answer to get the right solution is, well, you kind of need both, because one without the other really doesn't satisfy the needs of the organization. So the brainchild, I guess, of Sanity Capital is, well, how do we give our customers options? And capital expenditures are great. Operational expenditures are great. Consumption-based modeling is great. They all have their place. And Sanity Capital, it is our hope that we've given our customers choice and allows flexibility for procuring technology. That technology being hardware, that technology being software, cloud infrastructure, services, maintenance, anything that has to do with technology is kind of where Sanity Capital has its roots. So we'll get into all of the reasons, and I know many of you on the phone right now understand why financing would be of interest, and but we'll get into that. And before we get there, you know, just a little bit about Sanity Capital. So when we talk about financing solutions and the solutions that Sanity Solutions represents and implements, you need a big war chest. And if we could do this all ourselves, we would. However, you need partners who have deep pockets, who have done this before, and we have chosen TCF Bank to be our title sponsor, if you will, of Sanity Capital. And I wanted to introduce Doug Korsmeyer. Doug is our relationship officer that we work with on a daily basis with TCF. So Doug, if you would say hello, introduce yourself, and maybe just a little bit about TCF Bank and what it is that you all do.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Jason, and thank you all for taking time today to have this call to talk about finance opportunity for IT-related projects. To Jason's point, absolutely, I would say IT needs continue to exist. Opportunities within organizations are ever changing and sometimes predictable, sometimes unpredictable. And when you have IT related needs, either hard or soft cost specific, and budget may not be available, we have the ability to put together very creative models or solutions to allow these projects to now happen. If you also have projects that are specific to CapEx, the need is there, but the budget's not, or if you, to Keith's earlier example, have specific things that are tied to another budget year, we can actually compress these things and bring these together now, and then put together either a fixed or a variable type payment solution to allow the project to then happen according to the need that you have. So I would say more to be said on this, but in short order, TCF has been specializing on this type of a model now for over 30 years. And with the advent of things moving to cloud, we also enable a cloud-like experience that can be on-prem. So that's exciting as well. But I'll hand that back to you, Jason, and we'll continue through this.
Great, thank you, Doug. So on a very high level, what is Sanity Capital? What are financing opportunities? And I hope what I portray from this slide is we're only limited by the creativity that we all come up with. So let's set aside capital purchases because that's not financing. I mean, it's using money, and that's a great thing. And if that's what your organization does, we're all for it. However, financing and financing solutions really kind of come down to three and maybe four. And the fourth one that you don't see here is renting. So there are often times where our customers ask to use a certain technology, a certain solution for a period of time. The goal is not to keep it. And in that case, another financial solution that we have to offer is a rental program. Now, we can't rent everything that we sell because that would be hundreds, if not pushing billions of dollars to do. However, there are certain things like, hey, I need to use a server for this period of time. I need to use your infrastructure on a managed service type of solution for a period of time. That would go to me is more as a rental program, and we have that. But if you see here on the slide, we really have three different main buckets, if you will. You have your leases, and we'll get into each one of these a little bit. A lot of people understand these. You have ownership, and that could be one of two things. Again, I've already mentioned you purchase it, or maybe it's a dollar buyout. And when you get into a dollar buyout, at the end of the term, you own the equipment. So that would be under ownership. And then consumption. We will spend a fair amount of time on consumption a little bit later, but this is kind of like your cloud type of acquisition or use. Doug, question for you. Anything else on this slide that you would like to point out to the team here?
Only the fact that, to your point, Jason, historically, traditionally operating type expense leases were what was popular, but with the advent of things moving to cloud, people wanted to have a cloud-like experience on premise where they're only paying for what they use, much like public cloud solutions offer today, a true like pay-per-use or just-in-time type model. And so what we took is that progression and allowed organizations to now have that on their own premise. But you hit the nail on the head relative to traditional lease solutions. Again, on or off balance sheet, they can be structured. Obviously, if it is a dollar out type solution and they know they're adamant that they want to own an asset, then title transfer would revert to them at the end of the term for the event of a dollar. So yeah, you hit all of that spot on.
Okay. A couple other things. I understand for many of the people we have daily dialogue with, you're technology based in general. And sometimes, you know, just for like many people, technology is kind of like, I don't really understand it, but I know what you do. And then there's other folks who understand technology really well, but the whole financing and buying is a little bit obscure. You know, other things that we can do here when we look at, and again, it kind of really doesn't fit into any of these. I would call it more of a loans or bridge loans or payment plans. Oftentimes, we have organizations who ask us, hey, our new budget cycle starts in 3 months. And we really need something now, but I just don't have the cash. And what we would say, and we would think it would be worth a conversation, is I already said a bridge loan or deferred payments. These are all part of financing solutions, and it may never. It might only be a 3-month bridge or a 3-month deferred payment. So again, these are all things, and again, when you start looking at this, it's all about, the only limitation is our own creativity. Is that right, Doug?
You got that right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, why finance with Sanity Capital? And you see a couple different sections here. We won't go through them all, but you know, there's really economic advantages and there's strategic advantages, and we're all in our organization to be strategic. How do we make more with less? Doug, would you like to go over a couple of these icons, and we'll just share?
Absolutely. So I would say, if you look under the strategic, obviously the first bullet is the comprehensive solution. So the way that our credit group looks at the world is they break things up in terms of hard and soft costs. We obviously can incorporate all of your costs within your project. So in this case, it could be obviously the hardware, any software, Sanity professional services, multi-year maintenance agreements, could even incorporate the freight cost, or even if you had a data center specific project where there was a construction build out cost to even renovate that data center, and obviously including the cabling and raised floor and, you know, halon suppression system, etc. All of those things could be incorporated. Obviously, vendor independence is key. The fact that we are bank owned allows you to work with Sanity, and if we put together the finance solution for, say, a specific project that you guys do, and let's just say that your needs change or need to pivot, Sanity can then offer you a solution that could be one solution today, but in 2.5 years or a year and a half or whatever out, it then can pivot. And we as the bank, because we hold an equity position in all the leases that we offer, would enable that solution to just pivot at whatever point in time. And basically you would only be out really the sum of the payments to that point, and then you would transfer into the new solution that Sanity would be providing you. Obviously, obsolescence hedge is key. I mean, what this does is give you an experience to now have good economics for the use of the time of the asset, but then at the same time know that you have a very sound and simple, you know, change in, change out methodology to now do upgrade and replacement of those assets. But I mean, you're basically hitting a lot of the right points, and this is an overview of a lot of that value prop.
Yeah, there's a couple things on this slide that I think are worth mentioning. And again, this is what we're hearing from our customers with specifically our cloud practice. And you know, we love on-prem, we love cloud, we love hybrid, because it's all infrastructure and it all has its place. But if we look at the economic section and remove spending spikes, the key word here that I like, Doug, is predictable. Right. And we ask people, why do you want to, why do you want to do whatever it is? It might be a hyperscaler or what have you. And they say, well, it's the predictable nature of the solution. And with our offerings through Sanity Capital, it doesn't, maybe it does go to the cloud, but why can't you have your own internal cloud if the sole reason is for the predictable nature of the solution? Well, we have that with, our help from TCF Bank, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So
Yeah, in fact, our consumption-based solutions or utility, think about really anything cloud related. Cloud is really a pay-per-use as a synonymous term. And so you could do that either in a public environment, or to Jason's point, you can do that on your premise. If you still want to have that off of your premise, but have a cloud-like experience in more of a private cloud environment, Sanity could actually work with you in a co-location facility or a managed service offering and still have the same experience of what we're speaking of here in terms of the solution.
okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, it wouldn't be a happy hour without a happy hour. And for that, we have Kenny Lark. Kenny has worked with Sanity for many, many years, but he moonlights as a bartender for Sanity. Well, I don't know if that's the case, but he does know how to mix up a good cocktail. So I'm going to stop my share. And then Kenny, I will have you give us a brief intermission and show us what we can make with the kits that we received.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Jason. Good information, guys. Really appreciate it. Today, we will be making the aviation spritz. So if you haven't got your cocktail kit out, please do so now. This is a fun one because really the aviation spritz is a mashup of kind of two classic cocktails, the aviation and then the spritz. So start off with a little history about the aviation. It dates back to 1916. Hugo Enslin, he was a German immigrant, came over. He worked up and down in New York at various different hotels and restaurants / bars. He ended up becoming the head bartender at the Hotel Wallach. And he wrote this book, Bible practically, which includes over 400 pages of different cocktail recipes back then from, the pre-prohibition times. During this time, flying was a really elitist activity, right? Not everybody could afford to fly. And this cocktail itself, made properly, comes out almost like a cloudy violet color, and that's from the creme de violet. And it's supposed to give you the feeling of soaring through the air, flying. And it's really classic cocktail during the pre-prohibition time. So really fun. And then the second part of it is the spritz. You may have heard of the Aperol spritz. It's kind of what it's turned into today. And I just love the history of these drinks. It's really interesting. So this one dates back to 1805 during the Napoleonic War. Basically, Austria/Hungary took control over the northern region of Italy, the Venice area there. And what they did is they started mixing water in with the local wine that was already made. Over time, 2 more world wars, it turned into, instead of water, they would put a splash of sparkling water. Splash actually translates to spritz in German, so hence the name. And as time went on, they started fortifying the wine itself with more alcohol. And then, what's the date? 1919 is when Aperol was invented, and that quickly became the favorite. So, you'd mix your wine, sparkling water, a little bit of Aperol. If you guys haven't tried Aperol spritz, fantastic. This drink really took off in, the early 2000s. In 2003, the Campari Group, which is another liqueur, bought Aperol, and they used their global distribution channel and marketing to, really get the drink out there, and people loved it. So, yeah, this is a great drink. Combine those two things here. Let's take a look at our ingredients. We have the black currant. Get your cups ready. Put a 1/4 ounce of this in here, so it's going to be quarter ounce of the bottle. Basically it says just build it. So pour things in the order it's on the list. So that's going to be the purple color from the aviation. And then you do same thing, quarter ounce of the violet syrup. I think we have kids coming in now. And then we're going to do some half ounce of lemon juice. 1 ounce of Bombay Sapphire gin. So it's going to be about half this bottle here. We get the joys of working from home. And then your Prosecco here, which is going to be the wine. 2 ounces of that. And then garnish it with the cherry and the toothpick here. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoy it. Cheers, and back to the rest of the presentation, Jason.
Thank you, Kenny. Maybe you made two. You can enjoy both of them.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you for the, I agree with you. I like those history lessons, and I like that drink.
Yeah,
so.
fun. Perfect.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Oh, Doug's got his. I guess Doug is checked out for the remainder of the presentation. All right, let me figure out how to do this. Okay. All right, so moving on. So we mentioned earlier the rental, the financing, the ownership, and then the consumption. And we'll talk about the consumption here for the next couple of minutes because it's probably the most unique solution that you as a user of Sanity's Capital can use. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And you know, when we're looking at it, the whole idea with consumption-based offerings is really to give you the leverage that you need to get the solution at the right time and at the right place. So when we're looking at these, Doug, I'll ask you a question first. Of when we're looking at these seven different boxes and then the use cases, what comes to mind to you that our audience should know? And Doug, you are on mute, sir. I knew. Oh, now you're back on mute. There you go. You know what? You're gonna have to put the drink away because
I'm not the one controlling my muting and unmuting to let you know. So,
all right.
It's all good. Yeah, I would say things that come to mind is that if we do a consumption-based solution, one of the best features or one of the nice features of it is that you have no arbitrary minimum. So if we did a storage area network, let's just say, and that was $500,000, what we would do is identify the all-in cost from the hard and soft cost of that storage area network. We would then look at the usage or the predicted usage of that. And what we would do is develop some sort of a pattern of a baseline of usage in the very beginning, which would allow us to calculate a cost per terabyte in this particular case, or we could do it, say, as a cost per VM. And again, that would include the hard and the soft cost. And then basically, just like electricity is cost per kilowatt times usage is your bill, we would set up a metric where we measure and capture data on your usage monthly. And that typically could be through, say, a hypervisor or some, software means. And then at the end of every month, there would be a report generated And then you would literally have a bill that would be, say, for your June's usage, that would be coming in July, but that would be literally the amount of terabytes that were consumed or used over that 30-day period times that cost per terabyte would equal your bill. So the nice thing is there, again, if you did a lease and that was that $500,000, that might reflect a monthly payment of, say, $8,500 a month. Well, if you have usages that are variable, or if you're in an industry that has usage that does vary over seasonal, in a seasonality type setup, this is an excellent way to now align your cash flow to your usage one-to-one. And so that would be key. And then the other thing with this is that there is no arbitrary minimum or no term. And so if in the event you needed to upgrade, literally, and this is key also, that let's just pretend that $500,000 SAN needed to be upgraded in a year and a half out. But a year and a half out, you didn't even have capital budget to do the SAN. Well, if you're already predisposed to paying, say, $3.85 a terabyte for your usage, we would facilitate with Sanity the upgrade of that SAN a year and a half out, and that $3.85 might go to maybe $3.93, or depending on the usage and the cost of the replacement, could go down to $3.78 per terabyte. But the nice thing about that is you don't even need to worry about having capital dollars approved at that time.
Yeah, that's again, it's super interesting. A couple of things, and I want to bring this back, because being in the technology industry, we often hear, price per terabyte. And while that is a great way, and that definitely is one of the ways Sanity Capital works for these consumption-based offerings, but I think it's important to point out sometimes that is, depending on the application, the solution that is needed to provide the business, the application that it needs. Not only do we have storage related or cost per terabyte, but there are some other ones that your bill can be measured. And some of these other ones could be CPU, could be memory, it could be the disk I/O, so not necessarily the terabytes, but actually the I/O needed, LAN and WAN-based offerings too. So, I mentioned 17 years ago, we started our company solely on providing our customers with it was really primary storage. Well, since then, we've moved into networking and security and cloud. So oftentimes our customers aren't buying storage from us. They're buying networking, and they're trying to replicate data between two different locations, or trying to replicate data from on-premise out to the cloud. And in that case, our offerings would be best served to you, our customer, in a LAN or a WAN, kilobytes, what have you, as a better solution. So, it's important for our viewers to know that our consumption-based offering isn't just storage or terabytes. So I think that's important to you.
The other thing that I would say would be exciting is if you did, say, a previous storage opportunity with Sanity, say, a year and a half ago, or you maybe have even done that with, say, another company a year and a half ago, we can unwind either of those scenarios and allow you to now upgrade to a Sanity offering now and take something that was even retro purchase that you might be doing straight line depreciation on and convert that into a cost per terabyte solution.
Yeah, that's a great point. So again, we often look at the solution on hand, or what's going to be implemented in the next month to 6 months or year. But what Doug is bringing up is a good point. If you have purchased equipment in the past, and your business could benefit from having additional cash on hand, and then converting, that asset. We'd have to look at the assets that you're talking about, and assuming that they haven't been fully depreciated and they still do have a cash value, TCF and Sanity Capital would be happy to work with you to provide needed cash that maybe funds an acquisition, or adding new employees, or adding new technology, so you can be more you can change your business plan to do what's best for your business. And Doug and his team would be happy to look at that solution.
Cost per desktop is also another one that's popular.
I forgot about that one.
If an organization has a lot of mobile desktops, or I'm doing an opportunity right now with Zebra handheld scanners and different technologies, all of these things can be brought together within a total solution. So you might have a IT solution, and really that IT solution, we could then craft a solution that could be more cumulative in terms of its cost. And then again, through a variety of other structures, enable you to work with Sanity to put together this kind of model really for an enterprise-wide offering.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then the other thing too, with consumption-based, most of our customers have some type of hybrid solution, where, right, they're renting space in a cloud provider, hyperscaler, what have you. We can, and we do, combine that also at just one payment. So we can flow what you're currently paying to, say, AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud, and we can then do the math. All right, Doug, this is really just math of the solution that you need. And maybe it's desktops. And maybe you're moving your entire data center to be outsourced. That's great. Most people still need client computers for the people who work for the organization. And we can align that hyperscaler bill and you just mentioned it, your workstation, your client computing, and provide you with one easy monthly payment, and you get the cloud, you get your on-prem, and voila, it's an easy thing for our customers to utilize.
Yeah, I have a customer that actually, we created a model where it's the PC, it's the 365 license, it's the what do you call it, a multi scanner, it's not a copier, it's a multi-function, or what do you?
Yeah, multi-function machine. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but it's basically it's the service contract, it's professional services, it's everything just all in. And then you're creating a cost per desktop type model.
The other thing, Doug, that Sanity Solutions is doing, and again, we're much beyond at this point somebody who sells you a piece of hardware, and it's really because the industry has required us to be this way. But we are building and have built a professional services organization, and one of we call it Sanity RX, and one of the product offerings that have come from that is Sanity as a Service. And Sanity as a Service, very similar to what we're talking about today, we're only limited to our own lack of creativity. Sanity as a Service blends services and hardware and software and cloud and assessments and implementations and ongoing support, and basically everything that an organization needs to run their business. Now, not every organization will use everything that is part of Sanity as a Service, but Sanity Capital is a great way to blend the two together. So the services that are needed with the hardware or software, and then how do you pay for it and how do you utilize that that's kind of a marriage of Sanity Capital, and Sanity RX is Sanity as a service. So that's another thing. Talk at a later time. We'll get Kenny to make us another drink at another time, but it's a way to make Sanity as a service easier to use and implement. So again, we'll talk about that at a later happy hour. So we want to talk a little bit about the consumption-based billing and just a sample proposal. So again, we have two different ways, and it actually goes way beyond two different ways, but for the sake of argument, you have your cash purchase, and then you have consumption-based modeling. And what this is basically saying is, if you look at the center, and you see consumption-based projection, in this case, in this example, a cash purchase of a solution would be approximately $540,000 in a rounding error. So $540,000. But with a consumption-based proposal, not only in this case is a little bit less expensive. It's, if you look to, again, in that middle section, to the lower right, 520,000 over 60 months. And sure, that's a $20,000 savings. And isn't that great? Well, that's a small percentage, and yeah, I mean, that's great. You save $20,000, but no one's going to be getting rich off of that, off of over $500,000 deal. But I think what's important here in this example is what the finance community calls time value of money. And the simple definition of time value of money is worth more now than it is in the future. So, right, I can use money today if I have it. Actually, look at the stock market. I was looking at NASDAQ. NASDAQ last year was up about 46%. So if you were to put your money into a NASDAQ fund, you would roughly make 46% on whatever your investment was. So $100 at the end of the year, it's $146. And time value of money says it's better to have, it's kind of like the golden rule, those got the gold makes the rules, and keep those, cash is king. So if you have the cash, you can use it for other parts of your business. And what the consumption-based sample here shows is you would be better off if we look at if you look to the bottom section, if we break this slide into three different segments, if you look in the bottom segment, in month number 1, you're getting a $520,000 tool or machine, call it what you want, for $1,000, $1,500. And you are allowed, because that money is still in your pocket, use that money for other things. And I don't know what those other things are. Again, it could be hiring somebody, it could be buying a business. It could be adding a wing to your building. I don't know. But time value of money says pay for the technology when you need it, not earlier than you need it. So there's a lot of goodness. $20,000 to me is a nice to have, but it's nothing that makes many people too excited. But to me, it's using the technology, using the solution, using the tools when you need it. Do you have anything to add to that, Doug?
No, you're doing a great job. I think the underscore is that literally now you're only paying against the technology's output or the technology's use. So if it's the storage area network, obviously that's capturing storage, and that consumption of storage that's being used in that particular month is all you're paying for. So it literally is the alignment that we were speaking of.
Great. Thank you.
At good economics, by the way, very good economics.
So moving on, we won't really get into this one because it's kind of showing the same example, but in a little different solution, if you will. The one thing that I will say to this, obviously in this case, it's a variable payment plan, but what I think often goes maybe unknown, maybe unappreciated is what's the best way of saying it, is almost like bundling. So in this case, the more you buy, oftentimes the manufacturers or the OEMs, or in this case, our Sanity RX support, the more you are willing to say, yes, I'm good for, the better economics you as a customer are going to get. It's buy more upfront. I've never known a manufacturer. Sure, oftentimes people will say, well, I just want to buy an annual maintenance contract or service contract. And that's fine. But when you dig a little bit deeper and you ask for a 3 or a 4 or a 5-month term contract, if you broke those down annually, oftentimes the annual payment is less expensive. So I would advise our customers to look at what a 3-year contract is, or a 4-year, or a 5-year, because it per year, it will probably be less expensive. Now, I just mentioned people like to have money in their pocket, right? And our customers are no different, right? Save it for a rainy day. But here's where Sanity Capital comes in. Manufacturers won't necessarily give you a discount unless you pay for it all up front. Well, that goes against the previous slide. However, Sanity Capital would be happy to take a look at those 3 years or 4 years or 5 years and spread those out over 36 or 48 months. And you as a customer, you get the benefit of the lower cost per annual service contract. And it'll be less expensive, and at the same time you get the benefit of paying for it monthly. Doug or Keith, anything to add there?
I mean, it is a time value money equation. I mean, you get the experience now of having multi-years of service, knowing that that's now part of your overall scope, so you don't have to sweat having that in your budget, you know, years 2, 3, and 4, whatever. So now that that's incorporated, and then because you are allowing us to put together a multi-year, you know, maintenance solution, we pay, in this case, the vendor in full up front, but then to you, your payments spread out over the term. And in exchange for us getting the multi-years in advance, the economics on what that annual cost is going to be would likely be better than if you had to pay it individually year by year by year. And it's not going to hurt you because it's still spread out over the term to you. So there is a pickup there. So yes, I would say that's a great solution, great strategy.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I think this is why cloud computing has been so widely adopted, is that it aligns your payments and your consumption to when you need it versus this overpurchase, big capital expenditure every 3 to 5 years. I think this is a big reason, and this is where AWS and Azure and everybody really nailed it, was with a financial model. It's not necessarily the underlying technology. It's being able to consume just what you need, when you need it, having bursting and variable consumption. I mean, it's really a financing model at the end of the day, this cloud computing world. And so I think that by being able to kind of have a little more control of your destiny and the underpinning technology, gives you better SLAs and a more tailored solution than what these kind of out-of-the-box cloud providers can give you. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You can tailor a solution to your needs specifically behind the scenes, but then consume it as you need it. So I think it's a happy medium, but ultimately I think this type of financial model is what made cloud what it is today.
Yeah, and we see actually a lot of, Keith, you bring up a good point, a lot of the OEMs, our partners, are coming up with, different solutions that are really more consumption based. And one of the values, and that's great. We look at those just for, just a note. We'll look at those. Oftentimes, it's good to separate church from state, so you get the best of both worlds. Your decision should not necessarily be technology and payment plan from the same. You look at your technology decision as your technology decision, and then look at your financing as your financing. And a lot of times, and sometimes it's the best for you. It is good to have two different vendors. You're in the driver's seat, and we find that it's oftentimes the best solution.
The thing that I would say to
Go
that
ahead,
is,
Sergio.
I was just going to say, the thing that I would say to that is, yeah, it is good practice to not commingle a technology decision with a finance decision, because through that commingling, there are things behind the scenes with blind discounts and other things that can occur and do occur. So what you're doing is you're striking your best, technology solution with that price, and then likewise you're able to now strike your best finance solution. And because they're not commingled, it gives you then the ability to now pivot and do what you need to do when you need to do it, without a heavy hand over you, potentially from a manufacturing finance company.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly right. We're running out of time, and we do have a couple of questions. So I don't think we need to go over any of these. I left these up. Basically, what this is saying is, we've got, and actually these are all good size, but we have organizations. Doug, what's, I think maybe the smallest one that we have done together is maybe about $20, maybe $50,000, size.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this just goes up to a $9 million backup software deal. So, nothing is too small to look at. Nothing is too big to look at. And it doesn't really matter which industry you're in, as long as your financials make good sense. It's something that you should explore with the Sanity team. The only reason we have this up, we're not going to go into, this is not a technical presentation. We can finance any of these offerings. We can work with you, and we can finance. We also understand that we don't have every solution out there. No one does, and if they do, they're probably not that good. They're probably, it's probably a website, so they're probably not giving it. But I guess my point is, there's no technology partner off limits. There's no service organization that's off limits. There is no maintenance contract that's off limits. And it was previously mentioned, oftentimes a solution is made up of 50% Sanity Solutions products and services, and then maybe 25 from an OEM that we don't represent, and then another 25 from a different OEM. I think it's worth saying, though, is Sanity Capital can finance that entire 100% if that's the best thing for you. Right, Doug?
Yeah, and you create economic efficiency when you do combine total cost. So it would behoove you to at least have considering that as an option.
And then lastly, again, our business, I hope we listen more than we talk. And these are different things that Sanity has done, not because any of us are all that brilliant here, but we do listen. And we have organizations who said, hey, one of my problems is I'm not getting the technology when I need it. So I would really like to work on a just-in-time delivery solution. So we coupled that with a warehousing, and we worked with the customer. We got them what they needed right when they needed it, and we took care of the warehousing for them, and set a plan or a schedule where they got the technology when and where they're needed. We have customers who are in addition all over the United States. We have a lot of customers who ask us to work with their international locations. So that's exciting, and we do that. And again, there's a bunch of other things here. I won't get into each one. Again, this is the Sanity capital presentation, but there's a lot of other things that we can help with. So in closing, Doug, maybe these questions will be best answered by you. So I'll ask a couple of them. Well, the first one is pretty darn easy. So if someone is interested in looking at some sort of financing, right? They've already received a quote from Sanity, but if they're looking at financing options, what would be the logical next step from your viewpoint?
Yeah, that is pretty easy. I would encourage you to work with your Sanity rep, and he or she will set up then a conference call for us, cumulatively, say the three of us, to get on a call to have me better understand what those needs are. And obviously I'll get a copy of that quote or proposal that Sanity has provided to you. And then I'll work with our credit team to put together a financial option and then present that to you. If that then looks good, then we can maybe obviously incorporate people from your finance organization and work it to present to them. And then providing that makes sense, we would work towards getting a credit approval and then putting together docs in place. We would then get executed docs and then which would allow you to now get a PO issued to Sanity to get that on order. And then we ultimately will be paying Sanity on your behalf in full. And then your repayment to us, the bank, is only based again off of a fixed pay model or off of a usage-based model.
Okay. Here's another question, and I think you've kind of answered it. The process of, I think you just gave the process from beginning to end. I think this question is more, what is the process of getting approval and how long does it take? So not necessarily giving the contract or the financial, the paperwork, but if I said, hey, Keith, I'm interested in your solution, but I'm interested in financing it. How long would that take to get approval from TCF, Sanity Capital's perspective?
I would say that if you're a publicly traded company, we are already gonna have access to financials. So I could probably get that answer within a day or two. If that, it could be a very quick turnaround. I would say that if you're privately held, we could provide an NDA to you. Don't have to do an NDA, but if you want to have an NDA in place, we would submit an NDA, get that in place. And then you would provide your past 2 audits and interim financials year to date. And then we would receive those financials, and again, within a day or two, we could have something turned around to you. So actually a very quick, efficient process.
Okay. Actually, this is my own question slash thought. We had a customer come to us in the past week or two, and they bought the solution, we'll just say a year ago, it might be 2 years ago, but basically their maintenance contract is coming back up. And so they've asked for a configuration or a quote for service. I guess my question to you is, can you finance software or maintenance only? So the hardware, the software has already been purchased a year or two ago, and now they're like, you know what, maybe we're interested in maybe this 3-year thing that Jason just got done talking about. And we think we can get a lower price on 3 years. And as long as Sanity Capital can spread it out, is that something that is something worth talking about?
We can do soft cost only, but it's going to be financial dependent. So it's going to be dependent on the strength of the financials, because if you think about a bank always wants something tangible as a kind of an equity position, as a way to secure the debt that we're now taking on, because again, we're going to be paying the vendor in full on your behalf. And so if it's soft cost only, there's no intrinsic value in a stack of discs or services, though we can incorporate that. That's why we would need to have a company that would have sustained, good financials.
Okay. Okay. And another thing too that I will throw out, Sanity Capital, our main title sponsor is TCF, but I will also say this inside Sanity Capital is a solution. And again, we love TCF and love working with Doug and his team, but I also have access to, private equity groups who are also, they're always looking for opportunities to invest their money. There's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. So even if TCF and your banks and banks, tend to be conservative, and especially the good banks, because that's what keeps them in business. But there are some people out there who, would like to make a couple % on their money, and if it's making 0 in their savings account. So again, I would also say to our viewers today that, again, it's only limited to our creativity and I guess our customers' credit. But so keep that open. And then the last question that we have here is I don't believe that we finance equipment. How can I be sure? So I'll take that a little bit further, Doug. We oftentimes work with the technical decision makers, and their job is to get the solution that they need, and then they go give it to the CFO, and then the rest is forgotten. Is there a way that we can help the viewers today and in other ways let them know if they currently finance?
Sure. We would be able to run UCC1 reports, which would be basically a title report of debt that a company has acquired. So we would know who those debtors are that company has worked with. So that kind of gives us an indication that that the specific company is already kind of a credit-worthy company because other debtors have already stepped up to work with you. And then at the same time, for us to put together proposals, I can also do proposals directly with the Sanity reps. And I know I've done this as an example with Keith, who's on the call, and literally have him relay that proposal to the customer directly without even any involvement initially from me. And then if they're interested, then we would then connect us together. But I can quickly turn around proposals even for you to just evaluate as a early on, just so you can get an indication.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. I'll say thank you to you, Doug. I appreciate you spending an hour with us. And Keith, we're through, so I'll kick it back to you.
Awesome. Great. Now, Doug, Jason, thank you. Again, a part that's so critical to all the projects. Every single project we work with you guys on, but sometimes isn't discussed enough. So, just as we've talked about today, it really helps align those initiatives and when you need to get things done from a technical or operational standpoint and make it happen behind the scenes with your procurement team. So thanks for taking the time. Hopefully you enjoyed your cocktail. Kenny, thanks for the history behind the aviation spritz. And yeah, this was great. So join us for our next open house. And thanks for your time today. Have a nice evening, guys. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you
Right.
guys. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.